Thank you both very much, Pradeep and Sanjay, for joining us. I'm going to start, Rahul, by putting to both of them 4 scenarios. And you tell me which is most likely and least likely. You don't have to give me numbers, because I know that's against the EC's rules. Suppose I were to tell you BJP crossing with its allies 400, BJP with its allies 370, BJP with its allies 300, BJP with its allies 272, and the BJP itself at 250. 250, 272, 300, 370, 400. Which is the most likely, which is the least likely scenario on the 4th of June? Who wants to start?
No, I think, in my opinion, the scenario is very clear in my mind. It's BJP along with the allies. It is close to 300. I don't see BJP with allies anywhere close to 370 or 400 is a remote possibility.
But BJP with its, as BJP on its own, will BJP on its own be over 272?
But that's not the question which you asked. You gave me these 4 scenarios. I picked up the one.
Okay, so the one you picked up is 300. In that 300, is the BJP over 272 or below 272?
I would say BJP over 272, but not by a very large margin. It's just slightly above 272.
Okay. Pradeep Gupta.
So, Rajdeep, with due respect to you, I have 3 scenario too. One is that for me, the food is half cooked at this point of time for us. Second, we are, as a polling agency, we are restricted to say or believe or reveal or release any kind of number whatsoever. And the third one is the most important one. More than often, you have been proven pollster like us wrong, meaning you have a better understanding of political scenario in India.
Forget numbers for a moment.
Yeah, it is more competitive.
It is much more competitive than 2019.
And forget the 19, it is more competitive.
Okay.
No, because 19 has some numbers, so I don't want to get anywhere near to closer to any number.
You won't get a call from the Prime Minister's office. Don't worry.
That doesn't matter. If I say he's winning, what's the problem? So I'm not worried about any kind of call. I have to stick to my business and profession.
Okay.
And my profession doesn't allow to serve half-cooked food. You will not like.
Sanjay, you want to give me the most likely scenario?
No, I would go back to the second question which you asked, that do I see this election more competitive compared to 2019? Both with regard to BJP, both with regard to Congress. I think, yes, it is definitely a more competitive election. And since I have expressed my view about what is the scenario for, likely scenario for NDA as I see now, in all probability, Congress is improving its tally compared to what Congress tally was in 2019. Where does it stop? Do I see Congress getting figures in 3 digits? No, I don't see that happening. So, as I said, real numbers, very difficult to figure out. But yes, my own sense is that Congress is on upward slide and BJP slightly on the decline.
Sanjay is being far more candid than Pradeep is.
गुप्ता जी तभी बताते हैं जब म्यूजिक चलता है और डांस करते हैं, वरना वो बताते नहीं हैं. He only wants to dance. He's been practicing his dance moves. But since Rajdeep spoke so much of money being spent and poll being conducted, so much money has been spent on Rajdeep traveling as well. तो राजदीप आप ही बताइए, तो आपके घर के पास में ऑडियंस सब, they all your friends and well wishers.
I am telling you from bottom of my heart, he has been right most of the time since I got associated with him. I am telling you, in 2016, that was the first time when we got associated with India Today Group. And 5 states was there: Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Assam, Kerala. He told me, Pradeep, I have a doubt on your one number. Your 4th state seems to be bang on, and that is Tamil Nadu. You want to revise it? I said, Rajdeep, we have tried enough. Let's go with this. He said, no, it can be reversed, and which was the case.
आप अपना मार्केट खराब कर रहे हैं राजदीप जी की बड़ाई करके.
He's giving me a post-retirement option, but Rahul, to answer your question, there are 3 things that I think are. I think this is the election which will be decided by the woman voter. There is no vote bank in this country today as important as the woman voter. And the problem is when television anchors or newscasts, they interview more men than women because the men come forward. The women are in the background. If you meet the silent woman, you get to know what's happening in an election. I remember last year in Karnataka, there was this woman sitting at the side of the temple quietly. And I just went up to her and then, it was in Kannada, but eventually she said price of kerosene, too high. And I will not vote for this government. I want this government out. And you sensed in that woman exactly, because she didn't come to the camera. The men come to the camera. The women, you have to go and talk to them. So I think the woman voter will decide, particularly in North and Central India. And I think, Rahul, somewhere this time the young voter is, I haven't seen so many young voters in rural India talk the narratives they are. They are watching social media and reels night and day. And they have very, very strong opinions. So I think these two, what I call the new MY, Mahila and Yuva. Previously, MY was Muslim Yadav. Now in northern India, it's Mahila and Yuva. And they are deciding much more than people sitting in halls like this who will attend our shows but won't go and vote.
But when you
I look at Mumbai's voting, I mean, they're 50% in South Mumbai. It's terrible. I mean, you think about it, Rahul. So, but the bigger picture, Rahul,
how many people here voted?
Oh, that's great.
More than 50%. But they also come to an election conclave, right? So obviously, the others are sitting on some pub and having a nice evening. So there's also a difference to that, yes.
But Rahul, I think what is happening is, look, the one common factor from north to south, east to west is Prime Minister Modi. I mean, this election is, do you want Mr. Modi to be in power for another 5 years or you don't want him? I think he is a unifying factor in that sense. But I am seeing state by state narratives, Rahul, which suggests it's a normal election. You come to Maharashtra, you hear of water scarcity. Sahil Joshi and I went 50 kilometers away from Pune. Women are walking 5 kilometers for a bucket of water. That's the reality of this country. You go to UP, paper leaks. Every student will come and say, "Ye kaisi sarkar hai jo paper leak karwati hai aur paper leaks can't be stopped." You go to some other corner of the country in Tamil Nadu, the issues are again very different, Rahul. So I think issues are changing from region to region, rural, urban. I'm playing as safe as Pradeep, as you can see. But the one statistic, Rahul, that I point out, two. One is the BJP won, Rahul, 224 seats by 50% vote share and more. You're going to need a huge swing away from the BJP for the BJP to be defeated in this election. So, I mean, I can't see a scenario at the moment where the BJP doesn't form a government, whether it's in coalition or whether it's past 272. And number two, Rahul, in the last two elections, in direct fights between Congress and BJP, 90% of the seats have been won by the BJP. So unless the opposition has offered a better alternative, I'm not so sure that the opposition is in a position at the moment to win India. They may win parts of India, but I don't think they can at the moment win nationally in every state, in the key states. I think there are two key states at the moment, Maharashtra, where we are now, and Uttar Pradesh. These two states, something is churning in Uttar Pradesh. I haven't seen Uttar Pradesh in a long time churning in the manner it is. Will it be enough only to change vote share, or could it change seat share? And Maharashtra, I am delighted to see Maharashtra as competitive as it is. It's good that this has become the state where finally people are talking politics. So that's, I've played very safe. My own sense is we'll be finished on, this result will be over by 12 noon on 4th. Whichever way. We won't have to wait too long. It'll be over by in 3 hours.
Before that, on 1st June, on the same very platform, India Today Group, television channels and other media houses, you will get to see Access My India, India Today numbers, and I'm sure we will try and get result before result.
Gupta ji can teach marketing to Shah Rukh Khan at this
So
rate.
I'm not playing safe, but मुझे पाबंदी लगाई हुई है ECI ने, so I cannot deviate from that.
You know, what we want to do is make this session as interactive as possible. So feel free to jump in and ask questions. I'll start with Sahil Joshi. Sahil, go on.
So first of all, I want to talk about, I mean, everyone talks about women voters. And जब भी women voters की बात की जाती है, तब वो कहते हैं कि भाई लाभार्थी योजनाएं उनको दी है. It's give and take. आपने वो लाभार्थी योजना दी है, इसके लिए उनका वोट मिल रहा है. दूसरी तरफ आपके एग्जिट पोल में यह हमेशा दिखता है कि अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट बहुत बड़ा इशू है। आप युवाओं से बात करते हैं तो वो बोलते हैं कि अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट की समस्या हमारे पास है। तो ऐसी कौन सी महिला होगी कि जिसको अपने बच्चे को नौकरी नहीं मिल रही है, वो उसके लिए बड़ा इशू नहीं होगा? 10 साल से आप एक ही स्कीम वहां पर चला रहे हो, क्या उसी पर वो खुश है? क्या उसको लेकर कहीं ना कोई भी स्कीम अगर एक्सटेंड हो जाती है तो उसके बाद उसकी जो नवीनता है वो खत्म हो जाती है, आपको कुछ नया उसमें लाना पड़ता है? क्या उस तरीके से इस विमेन वोटर्स को नहीं देखा जा सकता? क्योंकि 10 साल से हम सिर्फ उसी की बात कर रहे हैं।
नहीं नहीं, 10 साल से क्यों बात कर रहे हैं साहिल, आप उसको समझ लीजिए। यहाँ मैं खुल के बात कर सकता हूँ। आप इंडिया को जान लीजिए पहले, इंडिया क्या है। 70% रूरल, 30% अर्बन। अर्बन मीनिंग 6,500 cities and towns. 6,500 cities and towns contribute 30% of the population. दूसरे साइड पे रूरल है, तो जो 100 वोट कास्ट होते हैं, 67% कास्ट हुआ, उसका 80% इज रूरल एंड पुअर, एंड देयर लाइवलीहुड largely depend on government of the day. Please understand this. And their living is $100, less than $100 a month. Meaning what? They have to depend on government aid, and these government aids are starting with road, electricity, water, education, health, PDS, ration, and farm related सुविधाएं जिसको आप या व्यवस्थाएं कहते हैं, बी इट सीड्स, फर्टिलाइजर, subsidized rate, and water and electricity for irrigation. So this is the reality. And coming to the women, country के अंदर 50%, 50-50 women and men, 90% of the women in this country is depend on the male member of the family, so-called CWE. So they are largely depend on the CWE, and when you are living in a kind of underprivileged situation, so whoever comes and try and give you some kind of a comfort or the leeway, they are bound to skew towards whoever is there at the helm of it as a government. So these days, these women think government is their CWE. Government is their CWE. So that is the precisely, and this is the only demography which contribute 50% of the total chunk, which is the biggest number. Now coming to the youth. Now what had happened because of demographic shift in last particularly 10 years, earlier in the age of 18 to 25 years of age, there used to be contribution of 17%, 17. Generally 15% to 20% population of that electors used to be 17% average I am talking about. Now because of demographic shift, this 17 has become 22.5, which is a substantial number, number one. Number two, by nature as a youth, you want things on a rapid fast speed. And that is the precisely reason why they seems to be more vocal, more impatient, and what you see and what you heard, as Rajdeep pointed out, their voices. Whereas women voices is in silos. So coming to your unemployment and all those things, I'll tell you, last 50 years there was unemployment and inflation issue, and it will be for next 50 years. The question is, who is better prepared to address these issues? And that is how electors elect the government or the leader for that matter.
So Pradeep can't speak much at this moment about the exit poll numbers, but I know he has very strong opinions on the issue of Hindutva, because there are many in the BJP RSS who think this government wins because they have a very strong Hindutva tilt. Your view is that no, Hindutva is a very marginal factor. It's actually the work that they do on development which helps them win. Explain that to everyone who's sitting here.
Same thing, Rahul. Any issue for that matter, be it Hindutva also, जो सबके जीवन को या लार्जर सेक्शन ऑफ सोसाइटी को इम्पैक्ट करे या प्रभावित करे, उसका उतना ही इम्पैक्ट होगा. इट इज एज सिंपल एज दैट. सो आई जस्ट नाउ आई एक्सप्लेन द 80% इज literally struggling for livelihood, Where it matters Hindutva and this? It matters only to the extent of 5 to 10% of the people. But how it turns and what it turns out to be in the campaign, what media picks out. The reality is, in the 40 minutes speech of any leader for that matter, whether Congress, BJP or any other political party, they talk 90%, which is about 30-35 minutes, about the welfare and development of the society, and 5 to 10 minutes they talk about these emotional issues so-called, because unko usko bhi to connect karna hai na. So it is simply the packaging and marketing, and in packaging and marketing you need to use all kind of trick to reach out to the all kind of voters. So that is the reason why I always say 5 to 10%. And when you say Hindu, my dear friend, if you buy a pen and if it is not writing, you will throw it out or replace it. So as with the government. Who is leader? Who is government? Is a public representative. If they do not serve them, what are they for?
I'm going to come to Dr. Sanjay Kumar because he's in a rather candid mood. You know, you all did a poll at the start of the election or before the election, CSTS. I saw your, you didn't give numbers, but what you said was effectively suggesting that issues like unemployment, mehengai were top of the mind. At the same time, you said there was a strong...
Unemployment.
Berozgari and mehengai. But at the same time, you said there was a lot of faith in Mr. Modi as a leader when you looked at leadership across parties. Do you believe that something has changed from the time you started this election, where you seemed very confident that the BJP was going to get 300 plus? Effectively, that's what your survey seemed to suggest. Yeah. Today you've come and said 272 with allies 300. That's the question many people are asking. Has something changed in the last 6 to 8 weeks for you, Sanjay Kumar, to be a little bit more cautious?
No, on the question of that, you gave me 4 options and I picked up one which I thought is much closer. But on a serious note, yes, we did, CSDS did a poll before elections. As you know that we don't come out with number of seats. But this was a poll conducted in the first week of April. We concluded the poll by 8th of April. And our estimate, which was made public in the newspaper, was that 40% votes for BJP and Prime Minister Modi's popularity remains very high at 47%. But at the same time, the study also revealed, and it was like reported in widely in the newspaper, that we figured out that there are sections of voters who intended that they are likely to vote for BJP in the coming elections. But we call them reluctant voters. They were not very happy with the performance of the government. They didn't want this government to be re-elected by conviction, but they thought since there is no alternative, they will get re-elected. So, kya kare? Even if there is berozgari, even if there is mehengai, we will end up voting for BJP, even though we don't want this government to be re-elected. So, out of this 40, we made an estimate that really the BJP's vote share seems to be 35-36%, but there is 4 or 5% reluctant voter who might end up voting for BJP because they see no alternative. That was the situation in the first week of April, but I think as the election progressed, things may have changed on the ground, which is obvious from various quarters. And my own sense is that I think there is a movement of those reluctant voters who thought they are likely to vote for BJP on the election day. They seems to have moved away.
No,
because
you're
they
saying things have changed, which is obvious to everyone, but for those to whom it's not so obvious, explain what's changed and why between your earlier polls and now.
I think the narrative changed. To be very frank, when opposition party used to say this is an election to save democracy, this is an election to save constitution, I used to laugh and I used to think this is not an issue for the common man. But what has happened, I think, what BJP thought is a strength became a weakness because that was used by the opposition, or that has been used by the opposition as a tool to counter. So when Prime Minister Modi said 400 par NDA ke liye and 370 for BJP, and Congress and opposition started campaigning on this issue that, you know, BJP is aiming to get 370 because they want to change the constitution, and that is why we are saying this is an election to save the constitution. And they kept hammering hard that if they get 370, if they get a huge majority, they may be willing to change the constitution, and changing the constitution would mean erasing the memories of Ambedkar, because he is seen as an icon for a large number of Dalits. So this whole narrative that if BJP comes to power in a big way, many things will change. And this also connects to Prime Minister Modi has mentioned, we will take strong step, or we are going to initiate very strong measures as soon as we come to power in the first 10 days, first 100 days. I think that started making a connect to the people on the ground. And then I think that started changing the narrative. So the big narrative of vote on Modi or vote on Hindutva, vote on temple, that disappeared. And these small issues of, yes, there is some substance. People started thinking there is a substance, that there is a danger to the constitution. There is a substance, that there is a danger to democracy. This started growing up like small plants here and there. And the aggregation is what we are looking at now.
You know, Rahul, you've asked me, you've asked them what's happening. What are you going to tell us? You've also traveled across the country. You can't pin me down to a number, and you can't, you met the Prime Minister, you interviewed him. Does he sound like a Prime Minister who's getting 400 par, or is that all part of this calculated choreography to create the personality cult? Do you think he at all fears any possibility of not achieving that target?
Rajdeep, why don't you give him the same 4 options, which you gave it to me?
Okay, Rahul, 4 options. BJP plus allies 400, BJP plus allies 370, 300, 272, 250. 5 options. What's most likely?
Rajdeep, like an IPL player, likes to hit big and smash out of the park, and he gets great pleasure giving his, cricketing background. I stick to data, and I'm very, very careful. I'd much rather leave a ball outside the off stump than go and poke my bat at it and get caught out. It slips. But that being said, I think this 400 par is something, if you talk to any BJP leader, even they will accept is just a war cry. They also accept that some of this in some constituencies did backfire because there was built up anti-incumbency against local MPs. So some voters anecdotally started saying things like, we like the Prime Minister, he's done good work, we don't mind him being back in power, but ये जो local MP है ना, इसने 10 साल में बड़ा परेशान किया, इसको वोट नहीं देना है. मोदी जी के तो आ ही रहे हैं 400, इसको हरा देते तो 399 आ जाएंगे. And very quickly the BJP realized, if a lot of people start thinking like this, that we'll beat the local candidate because we don't like him even though we like the Prime Minister, which is why it led to a change in positioning. The fact also is that there is unemployment, that there is distress, and those are genuine factors. Nobody can go away from them. But many of these people actually feel that Prime Minister Modi is probably the best agent to improve their life into the future. Unless there is a vehicle that can capitalize on the anti-incumbency, which only legitimately is built up over 10 years. You can't have a government 10 years on. Remember, 10 years of Manmohan Singh being in power, people didn't want to see his face, they didn't want the UPA back. The fact that he's still batting on a tricky wicket, but still batting and standing strong, says a lot for the man. You saw what Farid and Ian Brahma said. In a global context, very difficult to find leaders who 10 years on are still standing firm. Obviously, the ground is more shaky than it was 5 years ago when you had Pulwama and Balakot, but he's still standing strong and still standing firm until the time the opposition finds some way of being able to channelize the anti-incumbency. Does that simmering of discontent lead to regime change? I think that's really the question, Rajdeep.
No, I agree, because I think you see discontent, but you didn't see anger. As you travel, you see anger in pockets. But I didn't see the kind of widespread anger we saw in 2014 when you want to get a government out of power. 2019 was in a way a Shraddhanjali to our martyrs. People went out and said, we want to, the Pulwama martyrs have to be in some way almost given a tribute, and we've got to go and vote. And there was this muscular nationalism. In 2024, it's almost reassuringly back to an old-style Indian election, where you can go to Western Maharashtra and you said, you sense the issues are very different from what they will be in a Vidarbha to a Marathwada. That's what India is. Every constituency is different from the other. We went recently in eastern UP to Ghazipur, Jaunpur, Varanasi. Varanasi, the Prime Minister is going to win by a landslide. You go to Jaunpur, and it's a classic old-style Indian constituency, all kinds of conspiracies. The candidate there is a Mumbai Congress chief who's now joined the BJP, so the locals are not very happy. Who's this outsider? You're seeing India at play. This is the fascinating. India is not America, Biden versus Trump. This is the most fascinating, complex country in the world, and we should celebrate it. You know, we get caught, democracy is dead. Indian democracy is not dead. Indian democracy is alive and kicking. It may be dead at times because of no level playing field, resources, institutions in trouble. But the voter in his own way knows how to, इनको एक ना एक दिन arrogant leader को मैं सबक सिखाऊंगा. He finds his own way to do it. How he does it is complicated, but he does it, Rahul. Somewhere down the line, I think we need to celebrate that diversity. And because Pradeep goes to all 543 constituencies, he has a better chance of getting it right than most. So my only thing to Pradeep, and I remember telling him this in West Bengal 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and before that once in Karnataka, please go and poll more women. I believe political parties get their calculations wrong because they don't go and poll enough women. Pollsters get it wrong because they don't poll women. The women are terrific. They have agency now. They don't go according to their husbands. In fact, one lady told me, "Tenna karu dya, me ithe vote karna re." But let's look at this election as we approach it. As pollsters, has it become more difficult, therefore, Sanjay Kumar, to predict an Indian election? Because there are so many complexities. Indian voters, remarkable, they vote differently in Vidhan Sabha and Lok Sabha. We are seeing it. I believe Maharashtra voter will vote very differently for a state election 4 months from now. Is it more difficult now to predict the mind of an Indian voter than it was, say, 10 years ago?
My job has become very easy because we don't predict elections anymore. We used to do that earlier.
But even predicting trends?
Yes, we do. What we do through our research, we try and give a sense of how India voted, how people have voted, what has been the issues. And yes, we try and give you a sense of, you means all the viewers, readers, a sense of how people have voted, what has been the shift, what has been the reasons. You would not find us coming out with any numbers about the seats. That's why my job is easy. We don't predict the election, but we try and give you a sense of the support base of political parties, which is to say the vote share. Where does the party stand? Which party is ahead and which party is trailing? And about what margin, whether it is 10%, 12% or 5%.
Pradeep, but is it more difficult?
No, not at all. I mean, I enjoy that thanks to Access My India team, and we enjoy the most difficult puzzle to solve.
Let's get a question from Rajesh Shah. He runs a champion kabaddi team, as you know, also runs Mukund. Go for it.
Yeah. Hi, Radhi. You seem to be on quite a roll this evening. So let's keep you rolling, all right? Now, you talked about churning a couple of nights ago. Political earthquake was a phrase you used, and you've been going around talking to youth and the silent women. Tell us a little more.
No, I used the earthquake only so that people would watch the show. It was pure marketing. You know, if I said it's a normal election, who's going to watch? So you have to say it's an earthquake. You have to excite the. Look, I just think that this is a fascinating Indian election because it's. See, 2014 was a mood for change. 2019 was this muscular nationalism. 2024 is much more like a normal Indian election with the Modi factor overwhelming. You know, except for that, finally we are seeing real issues being debated on the ground.
We are out of time on this session. Ruchir Sharma is here. Everyone's waiting to listen to him. But one thing seems quite clear before I wrap up. What was earlier a no contest, one way, there's a lot of predictability around the election. No matter what the end result at 2 p.m. on the 4th or at 7 p.m. on the 1st, one thing is clear, there's now enough buzz and excitement around the Indian election. That's what makes Rajdeep's job, my job, that much more exciting. And that's what all of us at the India Today Group are preparing for that exit poll and for that counting day. And we look forward to having you with us for the time being. Pradeep Gupta, I hope you've been practicing your dance moves, because if you intend to dance, you know, just kind of, there has to be one better move than this, you know, like a little better than that.
Let me get my numbers right first.
And then?
Then we'll decide what to do.
Yeah, that's the other thing we need to clarify. It's not about who wins the election. If we get the numbers right, we will do a dance. If we get the numbers wrong, we will be mournful.
Rajdeep's children told him, boss, do whatever you do, dad, don't dance.